Ebola! Ebola! Ebola has come to America, and government is concerned for your safety. That's why the Center for Disease Control is working round the clock to prevent you from ending up like them. Don't be another statistic. Ask your doctor about the Ebola vaccine today. Side effects may include soreness, headache, stuffy nose, sore throat, joint pain, abdominal pain, constipation, coughing, nausea, diarrhea, fever, blood in the urine or stool, pneumonia, stomach inflammation, swelling, chills, fussiness, crusting, redness, vomiting, seizures, apathy, autism, non-stop crying, bowel blockage, coma, fainting spells, permanent brain damage, allergic reaction, swollen glands, deafness, bleeding disorder, lowered consciousness, death. Ebola!
We can do it, yes we can. We can change things throughout the land, but we all must lend a hand. We can do it, oh yes we can. Oh, your neighbor over there, a bit bewildered, but he cares. He just doesn't know what to do. Join together and then there'll be two. There are others all around, scattered throughout the town. Reach out and you will see your numbers swell to 3. We can do it, yes we can. We can change things throughout the land, but we all must lend a hand. We can.
Oh, yeah, yes, we can. Here we are. I'm sorry, I cut it off a little short. This is Truth versus News, where you get the roots of the fruits in the news here. And we're, oops, that's not what I want. Right here. There we go. Welcome to a terrific show I've just been splicing together here for October 16th. Yeah, I don't even know what month it is. Anyway, we're getting into all kinds of things, and we have a special guest here. She wrote a book called Lee and Me, Me and Lee, and her name is Judith Berry Baker, and she's got some things to share with us that are quite unusual. I mean, she's got a real story here. This is quite the book, 600 pages of good things. And I guess I might as well just turn it over to you. I mean, I could give you a great introduction, but I think that you're going to tell us some secrets that we would not hear from the mainstream media about somebody you knew pretty intimately back in '63 who had a lot to do with a historical event that time. Is that right? Are you on? Unmute.
Yes.
Unmute. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay, we can hear you fine. Go ahead, Judith Berry Baker.
What would you like me to say?
Well, if you have a
who
half
he
hour,
was, what he was about.
I could do that.
Yeah. You see, Lee Oswald was accused of killing President Kennedy, and this is the 50th anniversary of the Warren Commission report. 26 volumes. I mean, you can stack it up. It's almost as tall as you are, and yet it's filled with nonsense. It's seriously, it's filled with obsolete information. We've had over 1 million documents released since that report was put out, and yet the media still focuses on it because they don't want to look any further. They look any further, it'll upset everything that they ever were telling the people, and they just won't do it. So we have to go to you. We have to go to the independents and tell them the story.
Yeah, and I will say that but it's been 50 years ago, so I mean it's all sealed. So what are you doing resurrecting this stuff now? I mean, everybody, well not everybody, but a lot of people were told, and many times, like you say, millions of times, that Lee Harvey Oswald was a lone assassin, and so you know something that the mainstream media doesn't know and doesn't want out. Is that right?
Well, of course. For one thing, I'm a witness. I have also witnesses to me that who I was and of my association with Lee. And Lee was not anything as he has been portrayed. Now, Jim Garrison in 1967 tried hard to get the information out. So the media just slammed him everywhere and did everything they could to denigrate him and degrade him, to make fun of him. And he tried to indict and put on trial Clay Shaw of the International Trademark. That didn't work because, of course, he was protected so well. So since then, since 1967, after that we had the HSCA, and they concluded this was a government House committee. They concluded there had been a conspiracy, but you never hear about that. Everybody always goes back to the Warren Commission report, and of course they don't read it. If you read it, you would be astonished at the kind of information that's in it. Mm-hmm. But I'm here to talk to you about what the man was really like and what we were really up to. And there are two books now. The first one is Me and Lee, and it talks about my relationship with Lee in our attempt to kill Fidel Castro in a large CIA-sponsored project that involved a cancer weapon. Now, if you think that cancer can't be caused by an injection today, 50 years ago, we had actually perfected a method to do that. So biological weapons have been with us for some time. And even though Richard Nixon, one of the first things he did when he became president was declare war on cancer. He gathered up all this material and hid it from the American people. But some of us are still alive that can tell you about it.
Yeah, so that's why I opened up with this Ebola and things, because it looks like we are weaponizing the world right now, weaponizing germs, and we've done that with all kinds of things here. So
this is a lack of ethics. I mean, the fact that we should
ethics. Where does ethics come in? Where does ethics come into it? It's all about money. Come on.
Well, this is the thing. America has turned into a country where God is not God anymore. He's money.
That's right.
And this is the crying shame. And our children are being raised. They have not been born free. We were born free, sir. Pastor, we were born free. But our children are born with debts on their heads and with terrible food to eat and bad water and bad air, and especially more than anything, bad government. And the bad government came into power, actually, with the death of Kennedy. We've been in wars, and we've been we've ruined our country. And to get our country back is going to take a lot of effort, and it needs to start from the bottom up. I mean, if you go ahead and try to fix your school board, fix your sheriff's department, move in and get your state rights back, and start standing on your own 2 feet, it's going to take quite a bit. And I'm really, frankly, because of the Bible and everything, I see you're a pastor, and I'd like to direct some of my comments, therefore, toward what you believe the future of the United States is before I continue.
That's just fine. That's wonderful. So it's your show today here. I'm so honored to have you here. It's just a real pleasure. I got to meet you last Monday, and that was just an outstanding little seminar you had when you talked about your book here and things. So that was great. And I think that people need to have it.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. I see that you're not going to talk about the future of America. I'm concerned about the future of America. We've had so many lies given to us. So I'm here to offer truth. I'm here at expense of others, many who have donated to the point where it's hurt them even to get this message out. I'm going to a total of 31 cities. I live overseas for my safety, and I have to rely on people like you to get the message out for me. Because that actually keeps me safer, really, by exposing what I'm saying to others. Now, Lee Oswald, of course, didn't kill Kennedy. In fact, far the opposite. We have evidence, and I'm a living witness to the fact that he did his best to try to save Kennedy's life. It's complete opposite. It's black as white, white as black. It's, it's Alice in Wonderland the way they've handled these things. The people that you think are maybe our enemies, maybe not. It may be that they've been vilified and they've been destroyed, and they're you call them names. Lee Harvey Oswald. They use these three words instead of, they don't say Lee Oswald, they use Lee Harvey Oswald. And they painted him as a demon, as someone who was evil and who was stupid even. I mean, who else would go and shoot from a 6-story building, a 7-story building from the 6th floor and through trees in his own workplace, no less, and leave the rifle there later to be found easily? Who had 2 little girls? He had a brand new baby who joined the Marines when he was 17 years old. He wanted to serve his country right from the beginning. This is a man who supposed to be extremely stupid. Well, how come he's so stupid that he learned Russian fluently? He spent almost 3 years in the Soviet Union as a fake defector for our country. He was there. When it was time to return, he came back to the embassy, picked up his passport. They gave him a loan. The State Department gave Lee Oswald a loan right away to come back to the United States with a family, no less. And he wasn't arrested. Other defectors were, but he was a fake defector. And he did our country service. But because he was a fake defector, when they arrested him, he couldn't say, look, I'm with the Office of Naval Intelligence, and I've been working for the CIA. They loaned me to the CIA. He couldn't say anything like that because, he had contacts in the USSR, the CIA contacts, and they would have been murdered. They would have been executed. They knew he wouldn't rat on them. He wouldn't expose who he was. They knew he'd be loyal enough to take it right on the chin and even die before he would say who he was. So they had him and they framed him. And it was horrible to be part of that and to see it happening to him.
I can't imagine that having.
He stayed in it. He stayed in it, trying to save Kennedy's life.
No. No.
I know it sounds outrageous, but it's true.
No. I mean, the whole system, the whole thing was outrageous from the planning and everything else. I mean, I can't imagine that. Well, by the way, who was in charge of planning it? Who do you think was the kingpin for that whole?
Well, Lee gave 37 and a half hours before the assassination. Lee and I talked for the last time, and he told me, he even asked me to say a prayer. He was agnostic at the time. I was an atheist. I'm not anymore. But we said the Our Father together. And then after it was finished, he said, that is a very old cry to God. Maybe he heard it. And he wasn't going to run. He knew if he ran, we would all die now. And they'd get him anyway. But he had successfully saved Kennedy. He said, I think I saved his life. And I asked for a little detail. He didn't give me much detail because he was not a show-off. But at any rate, I've got enough information that when Abraham Bolden spoke out, it mirrored what I said in 1999. Abraham Bolden, a Secret Service agent, spoke out in 2005 approximately, and then his materials got online. So it's like 6 years after I had spoken about it. Abraham Bolden, the first Secret Service agent who was a black, who was actually selected by Kennedy to be one of his, what they call a Kennedy detail. And later he was transferred to Chicago. And when he was in Chicago, Abraham Bolden was standing next to his boss when the phone rang and the FBI called and said, look, you're supposed to go and protect the president, but he's not coming to Chicago. We want you to know it's been called off. We have arrested armed men because of the advisement of an individual whose name was Lee. Well, that was Lee Oswald. And Lee told me that he had done this. I told everyone in 1999, Abraham Bolden comes out and says that a man named Lee saved Kennedy's life in Chicago. And then we have the telex that an FBI agent saved, and the telex was sent to New Orleans and to Dallas and other Chicago and Miami and so on, saying that an armed group of militants were going to kill Kennedy on November 22nd in Dallas. Well, you know what? Guess who sent that? That was Lee. He sent it We know he sent it because the person who saved the telex also saved the awful, atrocious spelling. Lee could not spell worth a hop. He just couldn't spell. He had dyslexia. And so it starts out that there's going to be an assignation instead of assassination, and so on. And it's his writing. Of course, I was very familiar with his writing and his spelling errors. Lee Oswald was a good man, and he had every opportunity to find a way to penetrate the groups that were planning to kill Kennedy, because he was posing for the CIA as pro-Castro and pretending to be, against our government, against, pro-Cuba and so on. But by doing so, he was able to ferret out, that is, find Cubans that Castro had sent to the United States who were spies. And while he's doing this and working with these anti-Castro people secretly, they realize that he's vulnerable. I mean, these people include the CIA and FBI, and we have elements in the government that were involved, and they were working together because they hated Kennedy, and they had contacts. They were very closely associated with each other. They realized that Lee Oswald looked perfect to be a patsy. I mean, it looked like he's a communist because he had spent almost 3 years in the USSR. And as a matter of fact, he never even joined the Communist Party when he was there. I mean, that took some real doing, but he did. He actually avoided it. And of course, acting like he's pro-Castro, that was just to help find the spies, and also so he could be used to transport a biological weapon for this project that we had to kill Castro. Why, the outside world would think he was just a monster, And even when he was first arrested, and he's coming into the police station with handcuffs on, handcuffs used to be so rare. I mean, they're handcuffing little babies and grandmothers practically now. You know what I'm saying? They'll throw you down on the ground and handcuff you behind your back. If you're 70 years old, they'll do it. If the police think that you give them the wrong look or something. You can see it all over YouTube and everything. It's disastrous what our police have become. And it's a real shame, because it seems to protect and serve, basically is to protect and serve the police. At any rate, Lee Oswald himself, they said, do you have handcuffs on? And he briefly raised his hands to show them. And his hands, he's gripping his hands in fists because he's in pain. He's been beaten up. He's got bruises all over his body. He's got a big cut over his eye. He's got a black eye, but he's, in his pain. He throws his arms up. You can see it on a film. It's just for a second. But in the newspapers they put, he made a communist salute. And then I've gone around and I've expanded these photographs that they put showing the salute, because it looks like he's grinning. And when you actually put it on a screen and make it big, you can see that they actually drew in a smile or a grin on his face over his real face that was showing a frown. You can't see it when it's small, but when it's blown up, you can see the retouching. And people just gasp. They go, oh, like that, because it's so obvious that they made a grin on his face. They call it the famous smirk, and it didn't exist. So you see, they just got him and used him and killed him.
Yeah. They'll stop at nothing to gain power and things. So it's really something here.
Stop at nothing.
Yeah.
And this power hungriness of, like, Lyndon Johnson, a very good example. He's in Parkland Hospital. The president is lying there dying. And what's the most important call he might make? Well, the call he makes is to a stockbroker. And he says, I'm going to use bad language because that's all Lyndon Johnson knew how to use. But he said, told the stockbroker, sell that damned Halliburton stock that Lady Bird owns. So, of course, friends of the family took the stock for them and all that. And Halliburton went on to make $1 billion in the Vietnam War. And in fact, Halliburton's still making plenty of money every time we have a war or some problem coming up. Just look it up. And it was the same with Round and Root and all the other companies. Basically, Texas took over the American government, you might say, from that viewpoint. That was the Johnson technique of twisting arms and being friendly at the same time. And he was a master at it. Lyndon Johnson wasn't twisting anybody's arms, though, on November 22nd. Terrible things were happening to Johnson. Here's what happened. Over in Congress, they were having a hearing, and on the very same day Kennedy was shot, they had testimony that Lyndon Johnson had received bribery, like from mafia, and they were going to indict him and put him, on trial. Instead, he became president of the United States, and he cut that Congress inquiry loose. Forget that. That was the end of that. And yeah.
A president can do that, can't he?
The second thing that happened,
But a vice president can't.
The second thing that happened this day is that you see in films, you see that Lyndon Johnson is ducking. He is ducking when the cavalcade goes around the corner. Kennedy's already in the kill zone. They're going to shoot at him in a minute. Lyndon Johnson has already ducked.
He's tying his shoe. Tie his shoe.
Yeah, he knew he was going to be shot.
Yep. How about that? Yeah. So Johnson knew that Kennedy was going to be shot. Johnson didn't think he was going to be shot.
That's exactly right.
Did Johnson think he might be shot too?
We have a lot more evidence for that too, of course. I mean, tons of it. One of the things, we have the famous wink picture. That is, you can see Lyndon Johnson right after he's sworn himself in, basically. He puts his hand on Kennedy's missile. It was his own Kennedy's, he got it out of his room there. Puts his hand on Kennedy's missile. It wasn't a Bible. It was his Catholic missile, prayer missile, mass missile. And he puts his hand on it. He gets sworn in. He's sitting there on the tarmac in Air Force One. The Air Force One ship, if this ship of steel, this mighty airplane was in any danger, they should have taken off right away. But no, they knew the case who really killed Kennedy. They sat there waiting for a judge to come in and swear Johnson in. And Johnson, after he's sworn in, he turns his head and looks at a man whose name is, maybe you've heard his name, all right? Albert Thomas. Right. Albert Thomas winks at him.
Right.
And he smiles because Albert Thomas was supposed to be sick. And Albert Thomas, they had Kennedy come down there. Basically, it started with a dinner that they were going to hold, a special dinner for Albert Thomas. But Albert Thomas got quite well and worked for Lyndon Johnson for 2 more years. So that's the base of that. These winks and the actions of Lyndon Johnson, stopping some of Kennedy's actions right there. For example, the Vietnam War. Kennedy was bringing our troops home. They were supposed to be starting to come home at Christmas. Well, Lyndon Johnson turned that around in just a few days and started sending more people to Vietnam.
Yeah.
So he did everything that the military-industrial complex wanted.
Now, about that, it's following orders, that money and the almighty dollar has got to be, and American hegemony has got to be the number one thing to help with life and things like this.
Well, you see, and I want to ask you, how many of your listeners here care and understand how important the Kennedy assassination is, that's when we lost our hope. I mean, I hope it's not, I don't lose hope in God. I do lose hope in how uninformed and ignorant the people are, and they don't know what to do. They're just so ignorant, and they feel helpless.
That's for sure.
And I feel so sorry for them. Right.
And I will say that our audience is pretty astute here, especially if you've been watching my Always Pursuing Truth shows. I've got part 8 of the Men Who Killed Kennedy, about the love affair, playing in the background here right now. And I will say on Always Pursuing Truth, go back to the archives, back about 100 shows old or so, and you'll come into a whole slew of Kennedy shows. I think I have about 20 or more Kennedy assassination shows. Because yes, I think that was a pivotal time when I was just in college, and things happened there that really didn't set right with me, and I wanted to know the truth about it. But of course, Warren and others and company all confirmed that your friend there was the lone assassin, and no more questions need to be asked. So,
did you know that Hoover, of course, Kennedy was going to get rid of Hoover and make him retire when he turned 70. And instead, Hoover stays in as director for life. When Lyndon Johnson comes in, he changes the law so that he can do that.
Nice to be president.
Yeah. But, I'm here also to talk about the character of Lee Oswald and of David Ferrie. But, they have the 2 books, Me and Lee, How I Came to Know, Love, and Lose Lee Harvey Oswald. And then also the other book, David Ferrie, Mafia Pilot. And the 2 books go together. There wasn't enough room in the first book, which went to 600 pages, and we've gone to 536 pages in the second book, all about David Ferrie. So between the two books, we have a real good outline of how the Kennedy assassination was conducted, why it was conducted, why the cover-up occurred, and how they covered it up. Poor David was murdered when his name finally got in the papers again in 1967. He saved my life, and I felt like it was necessary for me when this other person who was an expert for 2 decades has said he's going to bring out a book, and I got tired of waiting, and I realized that after a while, I might be the only person left who knew David Ferrie, who was a woman, you know, actually knew him. And so all these things, and then who knew David and Lee and all the things they did together, and all the work that we did in trying to formulate a biological weapon, a project that had been going on for some time when I entered the project. But I'm telling you, we have advanced biological weapons today, and we have a lot of cover-up going on. That's one of the reasons for the Kennedy assassination, cover-up, because of the influence of the government in bioweapons, and also in their failure to sponsor any kind of cure for cancer. Cancer is a very lucrative, money-making project, and they're not going to cure it when they can make a lot of money off of it.
And they can control it. It's called the Center for Disease Control, not the Center for Disease Cures.
It's like Orwell, isn't it? If it says disease control, it's something else. Now, I'm so outraged, Pastor, that they are actually sent over. We have Ebola over there. Ebola can be transmitted through the air. They talk about only through, they say, oh, it's just from, fluids, bodily fluids. Well, if somebody sneezes, that's bodily fluid being injected from your nose. Or you cough, right. So this thing about, don't worry, it's not catching, it certainly is. Ebola is a complex virus. I've studied it. I fancy myself as someone who has spent most of her life studying viruses and studying cancer forms, because I always wanted to cure cancer, and I was kicked out of cancer research because of my ethical objections to using prisoners, injecting them with cancers that would kill them if they were successful. And that's why I am not.
That sounds like a backwards kind of success. I mean, it's terrible. So
it is, and people need to know that this all started with a polio vaccine that was contaminated with SV40 monkey virus that causes cancers in monkeys. And we share 98% of the same genetic materials. And they will try to tell you that it's okay that 90 million people in this country received contaminated polio vaccines that could give them cancer. Now, for people who need to understand what latent viruses are about, have you ever had chicken pox?
Yeah, I had it way back in the 2nd grade, I think.
All right. Have you ever had shingles?
Yes, I had that actually later on in life. I had that.
Of course, it's later because the two are related.
No.
Most chicken poxes are vaccine or virus that gives you a kind of a vaccine response. That is, you get over it, but you're carrying the virus in your body. Then at a later date, if it migrates to the tips of your nerves, you can get shingles, like around your face and eyes or around your waist. Where did you get your shingles?
Around my waist. Yep, I was wearing a jumpsuit for a couple. That was in high school. That was late high school.
That was in your body for years, probably after chicken pox, right? How many years
right on.
Between?
You got it, doctor. Yep, that's right. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm saying, how many years was it between when you had chicken pox and when you had shingles?
I think about 8 or 10, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's got to be a period of time. It's usually a decade or more.
Yeah,
it can be
okay. Could have been 12. I don't know.
Well, it's the same thing with the SV40 monkey virus. You're carrying it in your body, but it will manifest itself eventually as cancer if your immune system goes down and you don't have a way to fight it. So we have a cancer epidemic in this country and many other places, and a lot of it has been caused by our own foolishness working with vaccines that were contaminated. And we didn't get the last of that contamination out until 1999. They will tell you they got it out in 1963. That is not true. Simply not true.
I'm sure.
Well, now today, if you have a child in America, that child will probably be administered 46, 36 to 46, or maybe even 50 doses of vaccine.
Yeah. That's,
Sweden, it's only 14. Ask yourself, why is it so different? Well, I'll tell you, for one thing, they make a lot of money.
oh, money.
Oh, yeah. And,
Does money
the
trump
flu
health?
vaccine. Do you take the flu vaccine? I'm just curious.
Oh, no, I won't take a vaccine. I'm dead set against vaccines.
Okay, and how many times have you had flu?
Very few times.
Very few.
Yeah.
Well, I know that all my friends in Denmark, when I was there, they all took the vaccine, flu vaccine. I was the only one that didn't get sick. I didn't take it. I didn't take the vaccine. I don't get the flu hardly ever.
But you see, that's part of,
remember when I got the flu last.
That's part of disease control. They can control the disease by giving it to you.
If you get people used to taking vaccines, eventually you can give them anything you want.
That's right.
No.
And you bypass all the systems for protection.
You don't know what's in the shot.
Just inject it, and it's right in there, and all your immune things can't affect it. Can't get to it. I mean, you go past the skin and gut and things.
All right. So way back in 1963, we were on the verge of curing cancer. We thought we'd have it in the 70s, but all the money went into developing chemotherapy. That is chemicals to treat cancer, not to cure cancer.
Is that is there a difference?
We can cure some cancers, like leukemia, that are like they're in the blood system. Some soft tissue cancers, but frankly, most cancers, it's a very primitive method they're using, but they will continue to use it because, oh my gosh, they can build all these cancer palaces.
Yeah.
With fountains and palm trees.
Yeah.
And I tell people everywhere I go, you're looking at. Go on images in Google and just put in cancer treatment centers, and up will come hundreds of these palatial buildings. That's the money that should have gone into curing cancer is being used to create big buildings and a big industry to so-called treat cancer.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting.
Absolutely is.
We've lost our way.
We sure have.
Lost our way. We've got to tell the young people, and I hope you have young people listening to your program.
I have some, I think. Are you out there, folks? You young people?
Yeah, I'd like to know.
High schoolers and things. The future is yours, and you should be knowing the truth about what's really happening in the world today so you can correct it and live a life of truth, because even us old fogies, we all have one thing in common. Young people and old people all have one thing in common. We're going to eventually take our last breath, and that last breath, I guess the only thing that stands right is truth. Did you stand for truth in your life, or have you lived a life in a lie? And it's very hard to overcome that. And at the time,
well, we're coming together, Pastor. We really are coming together. We're because of the internet and because of independent radio and TV.
Right.
I mean, I'm talking to you. You're talking to me. We have a chance to get the knowledge to our young people. I just pity them. I was talking recently, I'm going to 31 cities because of donations. People have given plane rides and hotels, said, come to my city. So that's what I've been doing. I'm going from city to city. But recently in one city, I was talking to a group, and I said, it's awful how if you get a final illness, what's going to happen to you? You might lose your home. You will have no inheritance for your children. And I said, please raise your hand if you're afraid you'll lose the inheritance that you have, worked all your life for to give to your children when you die. Not one soul raised their hands. And you know why?
Why?
Nobody had an inheritance left to give to their children.
Oh, my God.
Not one of them. Not a one.
We've been robbed blind, been stolen from, and things. And
yes,
it is a rougher time. I mean, we were living in the good old days, the happy days, right, Judith? But now it's pretty tragic, I mean, my kids, I got wonderful kids and grandkids,
and what can you give them?
I know that breaks my heart, it really does.
If you have a final illness, that'll probably take every.
Yep.
One person I talked to recently, they spent $88,000 in the hospital for just a few days for an operation. And I mean, it's horrible. It's just horrifying to hear these things. Why? Because I live now overseas because of death threats, frankly. But
after 50 years, there's still
oh gosh, yes. I mean, I was in in 4 years, I was in 5 hospitalizations, over 4 accidents and a fall related to the accident. I had my brake line cut. I had even a phone call where they said,
Wow.
you want another accident. And this is right after I'd been filmed by the History Channel.
Oh, no.
And yeah, and as a matter of fact, I emailed my friends and I said, look, I'm afraid I'm going to get hurt. They say they're going to get me in another accident today.
Oh.
And sure enough, that night I was in the hospital again.
Really?
I mean,
oh, my
my
God.
friend said, oh, don't be paranoid. Go to work,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, well, that's what happened. And eventually I lost my career. I had hydrochloric acid thrown at me. I've had, if I went at everything that happened, even to my friends. So to protect my family, I don't even visit my family when I'm in the United States. I don't see my friends. I only go and talk to all of you. But I live overseas, and the difference is incredible. I mean, all through Scandinavia, they have 5 or 6 weeks of mandated, that is, you must pay vacation, paid vacation, 5 or 6 weeks every year. And what else? They have free medical care. And what else? They have free college education. Now you ask yourself, why can't we do this? Oh, and they say, oh, these are socialist countries. They're social democrat countries. They're social democracies. And you're being told that socialism is a bad thing. Well, I've lived among these people. They have like 10 political parties. They live longer than we do. Their air is clean. Their water is clean. Their food tastes great. Food here tastes like cardboard, or it's bitter, or the fruit is hard and tasteless.
Well, we got
weird. And gigantic strawberries that are like tumorous. They might as well be tumorous strawberries. They have almost no flavor. It's really a bad experience coming back here as far as food goes. But the people are as good as ever. The people are being ruined by their own environment.
I'm afraid so. No. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's terrible, but carry on.
So all this started because of the Kennedy assassination, when an illegal government took over. It is illegal if the sitting president is removed by force. That is a coup d'etat, and what you have then is a junta. So we had a junta take over and run the government. And it has been doing it ever since.
And I think it's worse when the vice president is in charge of that junta, isn't he?
Of course he was.
Yeah.
Now
that makes it an absolute horrendous event that we can't grasp here. Is that? Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's very common to say that conspiracy doesn't happen in the United States. Is to ignore like Enron, to ignore the banking situations, to ignore that we could say there were weapons of mass destruction and everybody agreed and we went to war. Those are conspiracies. It's a conspiracy if you send your people into war because all of you agree there are weapons of mass destruction when there weren't any. You see, right? We have conspiracy inside and out.
That's right.
And they're trying to say that's a dirty word. Well, it's reality.
I'm afraid so. We were talking with Chip Tatum last week, and he and I concluded, he's ex-CIA, that we think the government's corrupt, but it's so much more corrupter than we can even imagine, and even worse than we can even imagine. So it's bad, and we've all been robbed, and it's just, we're just, we are slaves here, folks.
Well, frankly, I think the reason I've had much more success. I've been speaking for 14 years, but in the last few years, the last 2 years especially, and particularly this year, the people are responding. But I think I'm not receiving as much flack as I used to, for a very good reason. We're feeling helpless, and who cares what I say or anybody else?
Right, yeah.
Because what can be done? Tell me what you can do. I'd like to know.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's where the trail ends, I guess.
That's the bottom line, is that everywhere I go, the people feel helpless.
Yeah.
Well, we do have God. There is a God. I used to be an atheist, but I can't be an atheist anymore under the circumstances.
Well, there definitely is a creator.
Yes,
there is a God, and a God has no religion. And religion should be talking about peace and things like this. But
that's right.
How can we have peace when religions are at each other's throats here? That's just not what God would have. Like I say, God has no religion.
In Chicago,
the real God.
On November 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to be we're having the JFK Assassination Conference going to be held in November 22, 23, and 24. That's the weekend. Everybody can come and it's free in Dallas, Arlington. And you just go to Judith Baker, Judyth Baker, and join me on Facebook. And I'm telling you, we have the truth. We're getting it out there. And armed with the truth, at least we can start working together, at least to help each other in a way that is without, shall I say, without greed, without fear. They want us to be afraid. They want us to be. Look at Ebola.
That's why they can control us.
Look
Yes.
at Ebola. Now, what do you think about that, Pastor?
Well, I think that it's pretty much, like you have said, it was a controlled or weaponized thing that actually Centers for Disease Control has a patent on, and they're using it, and they're hyping it through all the media to really.
Yeah, well, that patent is a The patent is actually a manipulation factor.
Right.
They're actually trying to find ways to conquer Ebola, but the fact of the matter is, if anybody else uses those methods, they can sue them.
That's
because they
right.
hold the patent. So that kind of stops you from going in that direction. It's like, we are patenting this method here, now you can't use this without getting in trouble. So how are you going to cure it?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing about Ebola. Again, we have hundreds of thousands of African nationals living in these African countries. We can send them the money to build their clinics. We don't have to send our troops over there so those boys and girls are going to be, exposed to Ebola and then bring them back here. We do not know how long Ebola can shed. Now, what I mean by that is somebody can get cured of it, walk around, and we don't know how long. They literally may be spreading it through their, semen, their feces, or whatever. And it's idiotic to expose all of our people instead of quarantining those countries. So I'm speaking out especially about that because I think people who are actually sending our troops into harm's way should be court-martialed, like the generals and so on. They should disobey any kind of command that would send our troops into harm's way when we can simply quarantine those countries and give them money to go and conquer it with their own people.
That's for sure. Now, I've also seen where there have been some websites are trying to say that this Ebola thing is a total hoax, that there's crisis actors and others that are playing things, and it's been hyped so much.
Well,
I'm not sure.
I hope it
we're still out on that. I'm not sure if it's another hoax, but it's definitely an agent to control the population.
And the way that you control a population is with fear and with this information. That is, for example, they must have 150 different theories out there now about who killed Kennedy, so that you can't find the real one. The latest being even the Secret Service itself supposedly admitting they accidentally shot the president. I mean, that's how desperate they are now to stop people like me from speaking out the truth.
That's right.
I mean, they will even blame the Secret Service and put out there, Secret Service agent said, I accidentally shot Kennedy. Right.
Right, yeah.
Right. Yeah. We're going to believe that. We're going to believe in Santa Claus, too.
No. Well, you want a couple minutes to wrap up here? What would be your take-home message and things?
Well, I just want to say that I'm showing we need to have political events. I'm going to give you an example. In New Orleans, we're celebrating Lee Harvey Oswald's 75th birthday on the 18th of October. We're having a 250 serving birthday cake. We're having balloons. We're setting up candle kites. We are inviting everyone to come free. Everybody has donated. Everybody gets a Dr. Pepper and so on. And we're going to tell New Orleans that Lee Harvey Oswald is a hero. See, we need to have political events, not demonstrations, because they'll round you up. We need to have parties.
Let's have a party. Yeah.
That's right. We're having a party for
parties.
Lee Harvey Oswald, hero. How about that?
Well, that sounds like a real turnaround. And you have some people coming to that?
Absolutely, sir. Yes.
Not just a few conspiracy tinfoil hat people that are going to.
Oh no, it's not like that. In fact, we recently it hasn't tried.
We can do it.
It hasn't had a library talk to make, and it held 200 people. They had to turn away 300 people there in New Orleans.
Oh wow, that's
They know
tremendous. See,
they've got my book, me and Lee. They've
we
got
can
the
turn it
book,
around
Dr.
here.
Working.
You know,
Yeah, they know the truth now.
how about that? The truth will set you free, and at least freer.
It certainly will.
Yeah,
So
and
we're gonna
applying that.
celebrate
Yeah.
today. And so I hope everybody out there have political events. Celebrate Kennedy. Celebrate Kennedy's life. Get the vision back. Kennedy wanted us all to have freedom. He wanted us to not have war. He wanted us to have real money. Think of all the things. Have some Kennedy parties. They want to make you think that all he did is chase women. That's all that the young people remember. They know nothing about his warning us about secret societies. His warning us that we are all humans. We all breathe the same air. We're all mortal. And so let's bring him back to life.
I'm all for that, and I think he had a lot to share. He also, Martin Luther King, had an awful lot to share, and
That's right. Well, they shot him too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And to think that in Martin Luther King's, for example, the rifle that they found it on the sidewalk. Oh, come on. That's what a real murderer would do, is just drop it on the sidewalk so it has his fingerprints on it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah, right.
whatever. So I mean, it's all let's use our brains, let's work together, let's love each other, and don't be afraid. Love can conquer everything. And I love Lee Oswald, and that's why I'm speaking out. And nothing's going to stop this. I'm going to stop only when my last breath is saying, God, thank you for giving me a voice.
Yes.
Thank all of you for helping me.
Yes. Oh, wonderful. Yes. That's tremendous. So I really appreciate your coming on the show today. It's this is just wonderful, and I think that this will be an inspiration. And hopefully, you out there will go to the website and let's see here. Go to here we go.
Oh,
See the show, The Love Affair, The Men Who Killed Kennedy. That's part 8 of 9. It's on my Always Pursuing Truth archives.
I was so sick when I made that. I was in the hospital
really?
before and after. I got hit by cars. Before and after that was filmed. And they took all my witnesses out. They removed them.
Oh.
So,
wow.
and I mean, these are witnesses. You can see them in my books. They're alive. We're on television. In fact, Anna Lewis is right on YouTube. She's not in that. So, you know, they censored it even there.
Amazing. Okay. Well, again, I just thank you so much. And
well, God bless you now.
I think it's really worthwhile to have you and get your story out. I mean, we got to turn things around. Let's turn it around with parties, folks. No more demonstrations. Let's just have celebrations.
Yeah, let's have some celebrations.
That would be a good thing. I'm all for that. I'll drink to that.
Start having some joy in our life.
That's about time, yes.
Finding ways to link to each other. We who believe and understand what's really going on, we can turn some things around.
Now let's, instead of fighting cops and demonstrations and things, let's invite the cops and everybody else to a party.
That's exactly right.
It's all work together, folks. We can do it. Yes, we can. So
yes, we can.
I just thought that would be, that's great. So you take care and keep in touch. And I'm really enjoying, I got to read a little bit of this book. It's 600 pages, folks, but it's
full of documents. It's full of.
It's got pictures. I can see the
pictures
pictures in there and things.
I started saving everything,
and
then I started saving all the things I did with Lee.
Yeah.
Because I loved him and we loved each other.
Yeah. So you get
he
that.
was murdered right in front of all of our eyes on TV.
Yeah.
In front of 70 Dallas police.
Now, how about that? And of course, he and Ruby didn't know each other, did they?
Oh yes, they did.
Oh, they did. Oh,
so that made it even harder. You'll read about it in the book, Me and Lee.
Yeah, I know.
And you can get that at Amazon.com. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. You'll have to order it. Or you can go to Trine Day, Trine Day, Trine Day Publishers, and get it. You can also get an autographed copy by going to Judith Baker, Judith Baker, blogspot.com.
I got mine autographed, yeah. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
Oh, my pleasure entirely and ours. And hopefully you all got something out of this, folks. Hopefully you got a lot out of this and can turn things around and party up and celebrate and do things right. Okay, God bless. You take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye now, yes. And I'm going to play a little thing here coming up here. I hope it's going to play. I hope it's going to play. Yes, I think it should come on here. I see here. Okay.
God bless America, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
We need it. Yes, let's have a party on October 18th for Lee Harvey Oswald's 75th birthday.
Yeah.
All
Let's
over
see.
America.
Oh boy, let's see if I can't get this thing to come
That
up.
may happen someday.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Okay, and I'm trying to get something up here to play, but it doesn't want to show me here. Oh, great. Let's see if I have something else I can play. Well, let's just play this one that was playing here. I'll just play this out here. I'll turn the sound up on this. And we'll go for it here.
That he was not alone, and that there was at least one other person, perhaps two.
Let's see here. Uh-oh.
That were involved with him in this matter, who were trying to save the president. It's like one group is trying to kill, and the other group is going to try to abort. But he made clear to me there wasn't any way that he could actually remove himself from the situation into which he had penetrated. He almost rejoiced that he had been able to penetrate it. It was something that fulfilled him in a way, because it meant that he had fulfilled the function that he had always wanted to be, and that is somebody who might be able to make a tremendous difference if he could succeed somehow in saving the president. On the other hand, if he had removed himself, his wife, his little girl, his little baby, me, the people he loved, we would have been slaughtered. We would have been eliminated. And of course he would have died anyway. He was in too deep. He couldn't withdraw. It was too late. And then he said, if I stay, there'll be one less bullet fired at Kennedy. And my heart just turned over, because I thought that was such a courageous thing to say. And then he said, you know, look at all the people who have kids. He said, you're smart and you love children. He says, please have children for me. Have babies. Please have babies for me. So I had 5. I had 5 babies. And he said that I can't go on right now. In the final minutes of our call, he gave me some of the concerns he had. The most he had been able to find out that there was a connection between the assassination and persons whose names were Billy Celestes and Bobby Baker. Not that they were directly involved, but because of them. He said never to forget their names, and that this was a big event going on at that time in Dallas about them.
Bobby Baker was a corrupt business associate of Vice President Lyndon Johnson. So was Billy Celestes. Investigations into their financial misdealings were threatening to put Johnson behind bars.
And then he said, you know how we've tried and worried about who in the world my handler was. Mr. B, Mr. Bishop, or Benson, or whatever, Benton. He said, I think it's David Atlee Phillips. He said, and I don't want you to forget it. He said, you've got to remember that name.
Phillips was a high-ranking CIA official in Mexico City in charge of covert action at the time of Oswald's visit there. His connections to the assassination have long been suspected.
And then he told me goodbye. And we were both crying. And I told him I'd never forget him as long as he lived. And he said, that might be only until tomorrow. He could crack jokes right to the end. Of course, I meant it as long as I lived. So that's the way it was. And I wondered how I'm going to keep my mouth shut. And I knew if I said a word, it could be so dangerous for him. And I just prayed to God he'd make it. And then he said, would you pray for me? And here he's an atheist, and I didn't believe in God anymore either. So I said an Our Father with him. And he said, I love you, Judufki. Hung up. That's all. That's it.
Less than 90 minutes after the assassination, Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested in the Oak Cliff district of Dallas for the murder of a policeman, J.D. Tippit. 12 hours later, he was charged with the murder of President Kennedy. That evening, Judith in Gainesville received a frantic call from David Ferry in New Orleans.
Dave said to me, "You have to keep your mouth shut and your head down." He said, "I know you're an emotional person." He said, "I'm an emotional person." He started really losing it a little bit. And he said, "Everything's gone wrong. I'm really concerned that, maybe things won't go right, but you've just got to hold on to the hope that we're going to get him out of there." And he said, "And I swear to you," I think he said, "I swear on a stack of Bibles, or I swear on my life, I am going now. I'm going to go all the way to Houston. I'm going to drive all the way there, go to that little airport at Alief, pick him up, and we'll go over to Hull Field. He'll get on the plane there," and he said, "My boys will drive my car back to New Orleans, and I'll fly him to Laredo." Even he said, even if Lee didn't make it to Alief, even so, he'd be able to find out what was really going to happen to Lee, because he had so many contacts. And just trust him and hang on and keep my mouth shut. And then he slammed the phone down.
On the morning of Sunday, November 24th, Oswald was to be moved from the Dallas City Jail, where he had been kept since his arrest, to the greater security of the county jail. The event was televised across the nation. In Florida, Judith was watching.
As I watched, and I'm thinking, they're transferring him. I knew he hadn't made it to the airport. He's been accused of killing the president. And I'd seen over and over again some of the press conferences and things, and I saw how much weight Lee had lost and how thin he'd gotten. I saw the bruise on his eye and the cut on him, and I knew who knows how they were punching him, and the whole thing was, to me, I could see he was just being mauled around, and I knew he wasn't being treated right. So I was feeling horrible. And then I saw him come out, and he's got a nice black sweater on, and he's been shaved, and he looks nice. And my heart turned. I thought, oh, at last they're going to treat him better. And then they shot him.
He's been shot. He's been shot. Lee Oswald has been shot. There's a man with a gun.
Now before long, you're up to 10, and the process begins again. There is someone in the next town, got the word and is spreading it around. Cause an idea, this time has come, cannot be stopped by anyone. Plant your seeds in fertile ground, there ain't nothing gonna keep it down. Oh, we can do it, yes we can. We can change things throughout the land, but we all must lend a hand. We can do it, oh yes we can. We can do it.